Hello friends, happy 2023. I'm a little late at this, forgive me, it's been a month, January. It's February now and the year is well underway. I know we say this every single year, but I honestly cannot believe it, that it's another year. It's a whole nother year and I honestly just don't want to think about that very much. So let's just get right into the books that I want to read in 2023.
And the thing is that these scars are scary, but they are just some old scars. We should never be afraid of them.
If you enjoy these types of videos, please subscribe if you haven't already, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of my future book rants, rambles, or recommendations. And if you're interested in any of the books mentioned in this video, all of the links can be found in the description box below. All right, so let's get into it. So I'm going to start with the new and upcoming releases, and then I'll get into nonfiction and then backlist titles. So the first book that I'm super excited to read, this is not going to be any surprise to anybody who is around on BookTube, but the first book is Love Theoretically by Ali Hazelwood. I love Ali Hazelwood. I enjoyed The Love Hypothesis, and I thought Love on the Brain was just delightful. So Ali Hazelwood is going to be an auto-read author for me going forward. This STEM romance follows theoretical physicist Elsie. Elsie works as a professor by day, but that doesn't pay her enough, which is sad. So she makes up the difference by working as a professional escort by night. Right off the bat, I like that this book is pointing out that STEM is for all types of people, and it's not an archetype that you fit into or you don't. On the professional side of her life, Elsie is obviously trying to get to the next steps in her career. So it seems like this book is going to be exploring even more stereotypes about women in STEM. I know based on what I saw in commentary about The Love Hypothesis and Love on the Brain, some people said that those two books were too similar. To be honest, I don't really care. I thought they were both enjoyable and cute and relaxing. So if this book is just more of the same, then I'll be a happy reader. The next book is Happy Place by Emily Henry. So far, I've read 3 books by Emily Henry. One of them I decently liked, and that was Beach Read. The one that I thought was okay was Book Lovers, and one I thought was just so annoying and so predictable. I felt like the entire story could have been told in 20 pages, and that was People We Meet on Vacation. I don't even really want to say it because I can't deal with all the comments from people saying how I just don't get it. You know, not every book is meant for every person. So anyway, Emily Henry is a little bit hit or miss for me. But Emily Henry is such a beloved author, and her writing is not toxic like Colleen Hoover, so she's an author that I really do want to like. Happy Place is about a couple that has broken up, but they don't want to tell their friends about it just yet because they're going on this annual vacation together with all of their friends, and they just want everything to kind of be normal, at least for this vacation. Even the description of this book says it's kind of like the previous 3 books rolled into one. So I really hope it's not a rehashing of People We Meet on Vacation, because based on just what I know about all of those, it's pretty similar to that one, like people on a vacation. And I hope it is not written in alternating timelines, but we shall see. Finlay Donovan Jumps the Gun. This is the 3rd book in a series of which I have not read the first 2 books. The series follows Finlay Donovan, who is a thriller author working on a book about a murder, I believe, only to be contracted to actually murder someone because she was overheard discussing how the murder was going to go down in one of her novels, and so someone overheard her and thinks she's actually a hit woman. It sounds like such fun. I cannot believe I haven't started the series yet, but I am going to this year. So I guess those first 2 are just going to be bonus books. I don't actually know what this particular book is about, besides it being about Finlay Donovan, obviously, because I've purposely been avoiding reading the synopsis so that I don't have any spoilers for the first 2. A ton of people love this series, and I'm just super late to the party with this one, but better late than never. Sweet Vengeance by Tracy Wolff. So, coincident, I just actually filmed a video about Charm by Tracy Wolff, which is the 5th book in the Crave series. This book, Sweet Vengeance, is sort of a spin-off of that. series. Just as a little bit of background, this series for me started out pretty fun, but it quickly went downhill. But one of the high points in the series was in the fourth book, Court, there is a new character named Remy. To be honest, I have forgotten a lot of the details about Remy because I read this probably last March or so almost a year ago. But I do remember that he was trapped in a torturous magical prison for a long time, and he finally escaped in Court. And he was just a really interesting character. He had a lot of big ideas, a lot of things that he wanted to do, and also a lot of people that he wants to get back at. So Sweet Vengeance is going to be, like I said, a spin-off, and it's going to be following Remy's story. I hope Tracy Wolff doesn't decimate Remy's character like she decimated Grace's character. So, yeah. So let's talk about some nonfiction books that I want to read. First is I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jeanette McCurdy. I feel like I kind of came of age watching iCarly. I think I was in high school when it started, and I continued watching it throughout my college years. Don't laugh at me. So I knew of Jeanette McCurdy as Sam on the show, and like any teen, I thought it would just be a dream to be in her position, making a living acting on a TV show. And then the show ended, and I figured all of the actors just happily moved on with their lives, except Jeanette wasn't able to do that because she was never happy acting in the first place, because her mom forced her into acting in order to make money for the family. So it's not something she ever really wanted to do. I'll be honest, I was taken aback when I first saw that title because, it seems hard. It just sounds harsh. But then I thought, just because I don't feel that way about my mom doesn't mean I can't imagine someone feeling so betrayed by their mother, yet guilty that they somehow cracked under the strain of the abuse, that they felt relieved and free when she passed away. It just seems like a story that really needs to be told because child acting is just so glamorized, and the dark side of the entertainment industry is dark, and it's just really starting to come to light, no pun intended. The next book is Fair Play by Eve Rodsky. This book has been on my TBR for years. I actually don't know how long it's been. This book is about establishing true fairness in the household. It's unclear to me whether it's weaponized incompetence or if men are really this stupid. But somehow men seem to think that just because the husband and the wife both work, they are automatically equally contributing to the household. And this is a universal problem. Men blissfully ignore the fact that women working outside of the home tends to make the division of labor even more unfair. A lot of men tend to be blind to the invisible labor that women take on in order to keep the household running, and are often downright ignorant of the tasks that are not invisible but are unpleasant, such as laundry or dishes or vacuuming. I feel like this book is laying out one of the biggest issues with women's equality that hasn't been talked about enough. I feel like women just tend to put up with it so that their households don't fall apart, and so they don't have filthy, starving kids. This book aims to lay out an actual concrete plan for a fair division of labor. So even if I don't follow this to a T, I am interested to learn more. The January 6th Report by the January 6th Committee. I actually have it here. This is a real chonky book. The words are small and the book's large, but it's something that I think as an American I really should understand. As an American living through this time, I think it's something that I don't think we can gloss over and forget about. This is a pivotal moment in our history. This is something that's going to be in the history books, and I'm living it in real time. So yeah, I just want to educate myself as much as possible. Because of course, I, like everybody else, want to know what the happened on January 6th. How the did we let it get this bad? And what the can we do to stop it from happening again? Why do we still have the Electoral College by Alexander Kessar? That is the question, isn't it? This year, I really want to learn more about my government. I've gotten pretty invested in politics over the last few years, and while I feel like I understand definitely a lot more than I did, and I've learned a lot of new concepts, I honestly still don't have a lot of depth of knowledge of how the US government works or its history. I know the basics, the branches of government, checks and balances, stuff like that. But I have definitely never read the Constitution. I'm pretty sure the only amendments I know are the first one and the second one, maybe the 14th and the 5th. Maybe I should read the Constitution. The concept of the Electoral College is a source of contention pretty much every election season, and it has been for pretty much every election, I think, since I was born. Since the popular vote pretty much always goes one way, and yet the final election often doesn't. Why do we do this to ourselves? I know the media that I pay attention to is their version of events of why the Electoral College exists, and I do believe that, but I feel like there has to be more to the story than that. I feel like I just need to know more about the Electoral College because it seems like just such a stupid thing, like the filibuster, messing up our country. Like, how did this come to be? Why does it still exist if it's such a stupid idea? Is there actually anything that can be done about it? Or will changing the Constitution make the foundation of this country implode, rendering our country moot? Who knows? But I'm going to find out. How Civil Wars Start and How to Stop Them by Barbara F. Walter. This is a book I never thought I'd be reading, but I feel like it's an important piece of understanding that I really need to be informed on with what's going on these days. I mean, the US is a mess. That rhymes. That should be our new national slogan. Like a lot of topics in American history, I know the absolute basics about the Civil War. If I were trying to become a US citizen today, I would never pass the test, so I give props to anybody who does. We keep hearing about how the US is on the brink of another civil war, but I don't know how true that is. But maybe I don't know if it's true or not because I don't even really know what constitutes a civil war. Not that I could do anything to stop it, but if we were on the brink of civil war, I mean, the more you know. I know to some people, the last 3 books are going to seem like the most boring books I could possibly read. And you could be thinking, no need to come back to YouTube and tell us how those books went. I get that. But a big part of my own reading journey is about learning. And that's why I got into reading in the first place. When I first started reading on my own again, when I wasn't being forced to read certain things because I was in school, the first books that I read were mostly nonfiction and memoirs because I wanted to learn about the world and I wanted to learn other people's stories. Last year, I read a lot of fiction, which has been great. It's been very fun, don't get me wrong, but I'm ready to get back into some true stories. Nerd, Adventures in Fandom from the Universe to the Multiverse by Maya Phillips. Speaking of true stories, this is a book that I think will help me understand something that has baffled me forever. This is a book of essays exploring different fandoms, how they attract people, how they keep people engaged, and in some cases obsessed, how they affect minds, both young and adult, how they interact with social issues, such as race, religion, gender, things like that. I'll be honest, I've kind of always laughed at what I considered nerdy clubs, and I laughed at what I assumed to be the lack of self-awareness and control as if it was a personality flaw. I thought, I'll never be that into something that I would rearrange my life over it. Obviously, I was mistaken. Because as much as I like to imagine the Dungeons and Dragons people as representative of an obsessed fandom, I have found myself in a fandom as well. The Swifties. Don't get me wrong, I've always liked Taylor's music, but I've never purchased merch or attended any tours. I listen on Apple Music, and that's about it. I don't know what it was about folklore, but it sucked me in. And when the Eras tour was announced, I decided I want to go. This surprised everyone, not least of which myself. Long story short, I did not get tickets in the Ticketmaster fiasco. So like a truly obsessed idiot, I overpaid for scalper tickets. I also have to fly to this concert because I live in the middle of the Pacific. What has gotten into me? I've been inaugurated into a fandom, apparently. World Travel by Anthony Bourdain. This one is super obscure. I know. When I was in a nonfiction writing class in college, we were working on writing personal essays and developing a voice in your writing. And we were assigned to read excerpts from Kitchen Confidential by Anthony Bourdain. Agree or disagree with him or what he's done, but he has a very distinct writing style that really captured my attention. It was somehow irreverent yet heartfelt. It felt like being invited into a room filled with cigar smoke. It's uncomfortable at times, but it's filled with love and hope and a sense of community. It's almost indescribable. And I feel like that's what great writing truly is, and that's what I strive for when I write, even down to writing the scripts for these videos. I want to put just enough pressure on you so that you feel slightly uncomfortable, enough to think, but I want you to feel like I'm doing it with love. And I hope that makes sense. Also, I've just been a lot more into travel lately. I'm entering a season of life when more travel is in the cards, and I am unbelievably pumped about that. I can't even describe how pumped I am. I didn't even tell you about the book. So this is a book of essays published posthumously about different things that Bourdain loved. It says it's an irreverent travel guide, so I assume it's going to be partly actual travel advice, partly just random stories, sidebars. Seems like it'll just be a fun journey around the world. Okay, so backlist titles. I'm going to pick up the pace a little bit here. These are all backlist titles that I just haven't gotten around to reading, but that I just want to this year. I'm going to go through them pretty quickly because you probably know most of them and you probably have heard the synopsis for them lots of times. Finlay Donovan is Killing It and Finlay Donovan Knocks 'Em Dead by Elle Cosimano. I talked about this one earlier. Finlay Donovan is an author who gets mistaken for a hit woman, and she finds herself basically living the life that she created for one of her characters. The Enigma of Room 622 by Joel Decker. This is actually one I haven't heard about very much, but when I first saw it late last year, I knew I just had to read it. This is similar to Finlay Donovan in that it's about a writer who's essentially living what they write. This story follows a mystery novelist named Joel. Joel is down in the dumps in life, and so he goes to a retreat in the Swiss Alps just to rest his mind. But when he gets to the resort, he is weirded out that room 622 at this resort is nowhere to be found. Not like how buildings of superstition era just don't have a 13th floor, but everybody knows the 14th floor is really the 13th floor in disguise. Room 622 is somehow just not there, I think. Apparently there was a murder in room 622 involving some important people, and it's a big conspiracy. Not to mention, the cover kind of reminds me of the Lover House. And since we've already discussed my amalgamation into the Swifties fandom, let's not laugh at how I seem to see reminders everywhere. Nora Goes Off Script by Annabelle Monaghan. This is a book I think I had on my TBR last year and just never got around to, but recently I've been seeing it actually popping up again on people's monthly Instagram wrap-ups, so I think it's about time I read it. This is another story about a writer. Go figure. Nora is a screenwriter whose marriage collapses, and she uses that as the inspiration to write a screenplay. The screenplay gets picked up by some big budget production, and after filming wraps at Nora's home, the guy cast as her ex-husband in the film offers Nora a bunch of money to let him stay in her house for like a week. This is a romance. It's about falling in love after the breakup of a previous romance, which I think a lot of people can relate to. The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandana. This is a book I intended to read in fall, but that never happened. This story follows Mika, who is a real-life witch, but online she makes videos pretending to be a witch, which she thinks obviously nobody will take seriously, but somebody does. This person invites Mika to a place called the Nowhere House, where she'll be in charge of helping 3 young witches learn to control their powers. From reading the synopsis, it sounds like it's going to be part romance, part mystery, part just magic, with themes of found family, which I always love because I am a big proponent of choosing your family. Ninth House, and Maybe Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo. This is a dark academia story following Yale freshman Alex. Alex is the survivor of an attempted murder, but others weren't so lucky. while she's in the hospital recovering in the aftermath, she receives an ominous but exciting proposal. She can attend Yale on a full ride, but she has no idea why she's been chosen, seemingly out of the blue. She'd have to be pretty naive not to go, and also naive not to think that all of this is connected. It seems to me like this book is going to explore power, particularly the old money type of power, which is the worst kind. Babel by R.F. Kuang. This one seems like it's going to be somewhat similar to Ninth House in tone and in themes. This book follows Robin, a Chinese-British man whose dream is to study at Babel, a school of translation at Oxford. This is the place that's basically ground zero for the unfair advantage that has allowed the British Empire to colonize the world. Robin loves what he does, but he's having to face an uncomfortable truth that the country that he calls his own is not all good. And so he has to kind of choose between his country of origin, which is China, and the country that he has called home all his life, Great Britain, and his personal studies. And that is complicated by the secret society that is working hard to stop the British's imperialistic and colonizing ways. I'm glad I waited till now to read this, because I think after reading Spare by Prince Harry, this book is going to make a lot more sense, make it feel more relevant. Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I really have no excuse for why I haven't read this yet, but I haven't. It's a book about a house party and family drama. 4 Nepo famous siblings throw a house party. Secrets come out, there's drama, a mansion burns down. Sounds like a great time. Daisy Jones and the Six, also by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I would say I'm extra intrigued because it's been adapted into a TV show. But I don't know if there's actually merit with that, because I mean, I know Conversations with Friends is also a TV show, but I don't know if you follow that. There's an Instagram account that like posts the funniest Goodreads reviews, and there's one review that says, I'd rather have a conversation with the wall. And that's like, every time I see that book now, I think of that review. Iconic. This story follows a fictional rock band, Daisy Jones and the Six, that was super popular in the 1970s. But then they just abruptly disbanded, and the book is going to tell us what went on behind the scenes. A lot of Taylor Jenkins Reid's most popular books, Daisy Jones, Malibu Rising, The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, Carrie Soto is Back, are all about the inner workings of celebrities. I just think that's such an interesting topic to explore, and I like the idea of seeing the imperfection behind the perfection of celebrity. It's almost voyeuristic in a way, but in an acceptable way. A Series of Unfortunate Events series by Lemony Snicket. So far, I've read the first 3 in this series. I started it in December, and I believe there are 13 books in the series. So I have 10 to go, but they're really not very long. This series follows 3 orphans as they get tossed from home to home while trying to outrun and outsmart a bad man who is willing to sink lower than low to get their money. Their life truly is a series of unfortunate events. I've only read the 3 books, but so many things, so many unfortunate things have happened to these 3 kids. But they're still optimistic and they persevere, which is a good theme for children and adults that we can all take to heart. So far, just 3 books in, I'm already drawing some interesting conclusions about the events, so I'm excited to continue and find out how all of this misfortune plays out, and probably make a video on what or who I think is the true villain that is causing all of the misfortune. State of Terror by Hillary Rodham Clinton and Louise Penny. I have never read any of Louise Penny's work, but I have read Hillary Clinton's book, and I liked it. State of Terror is a political thriller that sounds like very exciting fiction. I'm sure the details really are fiction, but knowing where we are in politics today, the synopsis sounds more than plausible, and that's terrifying. The story starts with a new administration being sworn in, unqualified pawns being appointed to important positions, and international bad guys taking advantage of what they see as a 4-year window of opportunity graciously handed to them by way of a disorganized and undiplomatic administration. I'm actually most interested in the fictional end more than the majority of the story, because I almost feel like I know the story, but I want some sort of sign that everything is going to be okay in the end, And since books tend to have a satisfying conclusion where things at least somewhat work out, I guess I'm just looking for that reassurance in the form of fiction. Truly Devious by Maureen Johnson. This is yet another YA murder mystery set at a boarding school. I don't know what it is about boarding school settings that just makes these stories hit different. Everything is just more glamorous at a boarding school. Maybe because I went to a regular high school and it sucked. In a nutshell, true crime lover Stevie goes to a boarding school where she learns that shortly after the school opened years ago, a mother and daughter were kidnapped. And the only clue that was left behind was a note listing a bunch of different methods for murder, signed Truly Devious. But they were never actually found murdered. They were never found at all, so the case remains unsolved. But Stevie's gonna solve it after she settles in and learns her class schedule and does her homework. I don't know why I find that so funny. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. This book follows Addie, a girl who basically made a deal with the devil in 1714. She would live forever, but she would be forgotten by everybody who she meets. Until one day, she meets a boy in a bookstore and he remembers her. This is a story that takes place over several centuries, several continents, and that just makes it interesting to me. Like I said, travel mode. I feel like this book will be magical but poignant, and exciting but relaxing. It's hard to explain. Way more interesting than an entire book that takes place in the same studio Airbnb with no AC. So those are the 23 books I want to read in 2023. I suppose I should promise to update you at the end of the year and let you know how successful I was, but I'm not going to make promises I can't keep. So I'll just let you do your own little scavenger hunt in my upcoming videos, and you can give me a virtual high five when you see that I actually read something I said I'd read. Thanks in advance. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. That is all for today. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye. This STEM romance follows theoretical This STEM romance follows theoretical This STEM romance